Hi everyone, Ms. Robinson here. I'm excited today to talk to you about color intensity, which is a really important concept for all artists to understand and to be able to practice. So color intensity is the brightness or dullness of a color. As you see here in this example, the red and the teal on opposite ends of the color intensity scale are pretty bright, and as they move towards each other and mix together, they get more dull. So how do you change the intensity of a color? One way to do so is to mix complementary colors being those that are opposite on the color wheel. Why would an artist intentionally change the intensity of a color? Well, for one, artists want to create realistic colors in their paintings. So in this example by Edgar Allan Poe, you can see here that he didn't paint super bright green trees. Instead, he changed the intensity of his colors to create variety and a more realistic looking tree. This is also a good example of how artists create depth or space by changing the intensity of their colors. So in the foreground here, on the ground below the trees, the colors are pretty bright. And as we move into the background, they become duller to create that sense of space. Sometimes artists also want to create a sense of emphasis in their paintings. So you'll see here in this example by Claude Monet, he mostly painted a pretty dull painting. But then in the background, we see this bright orange sun, and that sense of emphasis from this intense color draws us into the painting. Artists also want to create a sense of mood in their paintings. So what kind of mood do you think Armand Guillaume was going for in this high intensity painting? Now how does that compare to the mood of this Edgar Degas seaside painting? You'll see here that this is quite desaturated or less intense as compared to the last example. You can create a full color intensity spectrum with lots of different swatches in between two complementary colors. Today, we will actually just be mixing a few of them to practice this skill, but you are more than welcome to create great big spectrums like the ones you see here in your sketchbook if you would like to. So you see here that I've already painted my red and green color intensity scale, and I've done my yellow and purple, so now it's time to move on to my third set, blue and orange. You'll want to mix up your secondary color before you get started, so you see here that I've already painted my orange swatch, and then you can go ahead and paint your other swatch just with pure color. Being very careful today to pay attention to craftsmanship. We want to fill in these boxes without going too far out of the edge. Don't be afraid to move your paper around as you work if you need to, and to change the direction of your brush. We're going to use this flat brush today because it gives us those nice crisp edges that we're looking for. So smoothing down any big globs of paint. Okay. Now, I'm actually going to paint my middle square, and you'll see that at the top of my worksheet it says 50% of my first color and 50% of my second color. So let's go ahead and pull over some blue here, about that much. And I'm going to pull over just about the same amount of my second color, mix them all up. And as you might have guessed, one of these colors is probably going to overpower the other. And of course, we know that blue is the mightiest, so it will take over. You'll notice that as I'm mixing here, I'm trying not to get any paint on the metal part of my brush, because when I do that, it just makes it harder to mix, and it also makes it harder to paint and harder to clean. So try to just use the bristles of your brush today. And don't paint with too much loaded on. So you want your brush to be nice and back to its regular shape, not globbed on like so. So sometimes I twirl my brush to get it back in shape. Fill in this middle square here, using my straight edges of my square brush to my advantage. Inching it up to the edges there, moving my paper as I need to. Okay. Now I'm going to do what we practiced with our color wheel, and I'm just going to cut my paint down the middle. I can wipe off the end of my brush if I need to. Now on this side, I'm just going to add an even amount of blue as I see here in my mixture. So what this will do is produce a 25% or so amount of orange and 75% amount of blue, which is what I'm kind of looking for as listed up here. So now paint that there. Oh, I actually mixed my colors in the opposite direction on my palette as I am here, which is fine as long as I remember which way I'm painting. Okay. And now finally, I'm going to squeeze off my brush here. I could even clean it if I want to, before I grab my orange to do my 75% orange, 25% blue swatch. And gather a bunch of that paint here and mix it in with my green. That's going to give me a nice, beautiful neutral. You can get really wonderful browns by mixing orange and blue together. And you can adjust them by just adding a little bit more of the primary color you feel your brown needs. Okay, there we go. Notice how strong my blue is when mixing in compared to my orange. So we've got much darker neutral colors over here, which is okay. Oops, I went a little bit on my orange. That's okay. And I just painted my finger. Whoops. All in the name of art. Okay, so there you have it. We've got a value scale, an intensity scale between our color complements. So once you finish these 3 sets, if you still have time, you can get onto the bottom ones here, but aim to get these top 3 ones done.